Buying a house is a big investment, and there are a lot of different opinions on how to start. Our recommendation is to start with why.
There are a lot of different reasons for why it might be the right decision for you to buy a house. Some are personal reasons, some are financial reasons, and we're going to go through those today. So let's talk about some financial reasons for why you should buy a house instead of renting. The first most obvious thing is that if you want to grow your wealth, then more of the money that you make should be put back into your own pocket. The largest expense for most people is your housing expense. Instead of taking a third of your income and handing it to your landlord, what if you were able to keep that and put it back into your own pocket? Pretty quickly, that would add up to a lot of money. Say, for example, if your rent was currently $2,000 a month. In a year's time, that's what, $24,000? What if you were able to keep that as your own net worth at the end of the year? That's part of the magic. Instead of your housing expenses being given to someone else, it's something that you go from your right hand to your left hand. Here's another good financial reason to own where you live. I want you to imagine that there's you and your buddy, and you're both renting, and then you decide to buy a house. Well, fast forward to next year, his rent just went up, but your housing expenses stayed the same because you have a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. Fast forward to the 5-year mark, the 10-year mark, the 20-year mark. What do you think? Do you think his rents will have decreased? No. Do you think they'll have stayed the same? Also no. Chances are he's going to be paying higher rents year after year, while your housing expenses have stayed the same. So whereas his $2,000 a month rent could have turned into $2,200, $2,500, $3,000, and just up and up it goes as we go further into the future, your $2,000 a month housing expenses has stayed the same. That's a huge difference in terms of your bottom line and how much it costs for you to live. Now let's take that all the way to the 30th year. In year 30, you will have paid off your 30-year mortgage. Using me as an example, I'm 32. If I buy a house this year and I choose to use it as my retirement home, when I'm 62, I will have my largest expense, my housing expense, gone, because I will own the house free and clear. Whereas my friend who was renting his whole life, he, in his retirement, still has to make the largest expense that anyone has to make, which is his housing expense. And by then, keep in mind, the rents will have been higher than where he started out. So where would you rather be at age 62? In a home that is free and clear, and you can use whatever other funds you have to pay for the rest of your life's expenses? Or would you rather have to deal with paying rent at 62?
Now we can talk about the financial benefits all day long, but let's not ignore the truth. Buying a house is an emotional investment. It can be stressful and scary and intimidating. However, the emotional payoff is very rewarding. Now let's talk about those payoffs. So no matter your background or the size of the property, it's a big accomplishment to say that you own your house, to say that you own the roof. That's over your head. You see this land? Yeah, I bought it. And if you're a landlord, you're able to say that you're providing shelter for someone who can't yet buy their own house. Hence, being a homeowner comes with that sense of pride. Now, alongside that sense of pride, you also have the sense of autonomy, ownership, independence. Overall, what that means is that it's your house. You can do what you want to, say what you want to, live how you want to. Cue Miley Cyrus. It's your house. You make the rules. If you want a pet, you're not limited to what your landlord allows. In addition to pets, humans. You can be the house that everyone goes to, the house where you have all the gatherings. In addition to that, you can say how many people come over, you can say when they come over, and how long they stay for. It's your house. You can set those boundaries and those limits and those rules. You don't have to worry about a landlord asking, okay, how long is that person going to be here? They're limited to only 7 consecutive days or less. Now, another thing about your house that you can do that a landlord has no say in is the ability to do whatever you want as far as decorating, renovating, updating. If you want your house to be red, paint the house red. If you want to have the doggy door so that the dog can just go in and out of the house, you can do that. Now, another side effect that a lot of people don't talk about is just how owning your own house gives you a peace of mind. Daniel's talked about the financial stabilities that being a homeowner brings, but being a homeowner also brings that peace of mind where you feel like you're stable and you're settled. You don't have to worry about a landlord barging in and saying you have to leave or your lease is up. I don't know. I don't really know how to wrap this up to transition it. Now, we've shared some very generic reasons as to why people might want to buy a house. Daniel, would you like to share some of our reasons why we wanted to buy a
Absolutely.
house?
So number one in my book is always the investment portfolio. I bought this house, our first house, specifically because I knew it would make a good rental after we exited and kind of built our way up to a slightly bigger house and a slightly bigger house until we get to the mansion we eventually would dream to own.
One of my biggest reasons was because I want to start a family. I would love the privilege of having our own space to have a family. That way we're not inconveniencing anybody else as far as noises or, just space in general.
Yeah, she's specifically referring to the fact that if you're living with family or if you have roommates, that creates a tension for the kinds of things you would like to do with that space.
Yeah.
Segue into my next major reason. I'm social. I like to have parties. I like to invite my friends over.
Having game
so
nights.
having game nights was big for me, and I can't do that if I have to get the permission of someone else who also cohabits with us, right? So the fact that it's just she and I gives us a lot more ability to choose when and where we'd like to have events. And when you're coordinating for an event, sometimes you struggle sometimes to find a center point that everyone wants to meet at. And if you can just offer up your place as the hub that everyone can come over to, then if you're social like me, you can have more events more often.
Now, I'm not as social. I like to have my peace and quiet and my own space to just be me and be comfortable. This includes, well, quite frankly, walking around the house however I choose.
Yeah. I mean, so if you want to have a day where you're just wearing a onesie all day, that's a lot easier to do if you ain't got anyone else in the house that you have to be agreeable with. Like, I want to have a private space where I am able to feel safe, secure, and like I'm not inconveniencing anyone else. Some of these goals can be achieved renting out of space, but some of them you definitely cannot achieve renting out of space. For example, the investment portfolio. Or even if you're renting out, say, the entire space, there's no roommates to consider. In a situation like that, you still can't have people at your house for a longer term. So say, for example, if you had a significant other who you wanted to stay over for longer than 2 weeks, or if you had a family fly in from another state or something, when you're renting, technically anyone who stays there for longer than 2 weeks, at least in Virginia where we live, they would need to get cleared through the landlord in order to stay there for that long. Thank you so much for sticking with us through the first episode. This is going to be a series. We're going to be covering more steps along the journey towards home ownership. So please stick around. Make sure that you like, follow, comment, and if this is on YouTube, right? So subscribe.
Also, leave us a comment as to why you wanted to buy a house. I'd be curious to know.
Yeah, what are your personal reasons? Are you more in line with me where it's like an investment decision, financial, or
are you more in line with me where it's a lot of personal space and boundaries?
Yeah, so let us know, and we look forward to seeing you on the next video. Bye-bye.